They'll tell you that battles aren't won or lost based on weapons or numbers or even hardware. They're won on choices. For over a century, our ships have distinguished themselves in thousands of civilian and military combat operations. We are proud to announce another weapon in the arsenal of victory. Get ready for the next generation of warfare with Anvil's Valkyrie Dropship. This multi-role weapon platform is designed to get personnel in and out of the hottest combat zones. Featuring 4 powerful rotating thrusters with VTOL capabilities, the Valkyrie is capable of landing with surgical precision to deploy assets. Fitted with a vehicle bay and ramp, you can also efficiently launch ground-based troop transports or reconnaissance vehicles in the field. Each high-performance operator seat features rugged construction with added support to minimize G-force for up to 20 personnel, making sure that your fighting force arrives on site ready to jump into the fray. And don't think for a second that the Valkyrie can't hold its own in a fight. 2 remote turrets featuring size 3 hardpoints can provide suppressing fire during deployment. 2 additional manned turrets provide even more devastating fire to blur the line between dropship and gunship. In the days of antiquity, the Valkyrie were believed to choose which warriors may die in battle and which may live. With Anvil's Valkyrie, we put that choice in your hands.
Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Anvil Valkyrie. I really enjoy the look of this ship. I think if you were new to the game and wasn't sure what this ship could be, the way it's designed and the way it looks, it offers multiple clues as to what it is. And I kind of like that retro sci-fi look. It kind of in some respects reminds me of the dropships that you could find in the Alien movie franchise, and I like that sort of old school sci-fi retro feel that this ship provides. But if you didn't know what this ship was, the fact that it has multiple turrets, an entry and exit ramp, a vehicle bay, sliding doors with miniguns attached, VTOL engines, I think an intellectual person would be able to piece those together and quickly familiarise themselves with what this ship is. And I like that. It's very unapologetic for how it looks, and that in its own way is quite appealing. It is obviously needed to be crewed to reach its full potential. Okay, so you've got enough room on here to support 20 troops plus the crew of the ship. Those 20 troops also have an individual weapon rack, so they could stow one and carry one, so there's spare weapons there. It has the ability to ferry vehicles on and off the battlefield, which is, I think, as the game develops and progresses, these types of ships are going to be used a lot by medium orgs, even small, well, just orgs in general, I feel are going to get a lot of use out of the Anvil Valkyrie. What I would like to see in the future though is maybe a little bit more competition. Now there obviously are some other dropships in the game, the Prowler being an example, but that's more of a stealth variant of dropship. And don't get me wrong, I love the Prowler, I think it's an excellent ship, but it's sort of very unique, more sort of deploy your elite troops undetected, go wreak havoc behind enemy lines, rendezvous and extract point, and GTFO. The Valkyrie is very much kick the front door in, cause absolute mayhem, deploy a vehicle, kill everything to death, and then also GTFO. So 2 contrasting vehicles entirely. There's also a Vanguard variant of dropship, which I can't remember at the precise moment, but I think the Valkyrie will have huge potential in the future when it comes to things like colonial wars, planet territory disputes, fleet battles. There's going to be a lot of use for a dropship which allows you to move troops around the battlefield quickly, effectively, and has a butt-ton of fire support for your troops on the ground. So potentially the Valkyrie could be right up there in the future with just sheer firepower and versatility. The Valkyrie Heavy Dropship is a troop transport by Anvil Aerospace. It is designed to safely deploy up to 20 armed troops along with vehicles into combat zones. Armed with multiple turrets and side guns, it can provide heavy overwatch to deployed troops, clearing safe landing zones. The ship has 20 dedicated jump seats and gun racks, designed to safely deliver and extract up to 20 fully outfitted soldiers into combat zones. With the ability of carrying 30 SEU of cargo as well as multiple ground vehicles, the ship can efficiently launch ground-based transports or reconnaissance vehicles for unmatched support. With 2-man turrets, each carrying a pair of size 3 guns, a pair of single remotely operated turrets, each carrying a size 3 gun, and 2 dedicated size 1 side door guns, the Valkyrie can be formidable when needed. The pilot also has a dedicated pair of size 2 guns located in a chin turret at the front of the vessel. The Anvil Valkyrie has a crew of 1 to 5, 30 SEU in cargo capacity. You can buy this ship in-game for roughly 4.5 million, and that would be at Area 18, I believe. Has a combat speed of 165 meters per second, which is actually fairly respectable for a dropship. And its max speed is 1100 meters per second, which again is also pretty respectable for a dropship. So as you can see, we're in the cockpit of the Anvil Valkyrie, and it is a very nice cockpit. I like the Anvil flight decks and cockpits. The MFDs look fantastic. I strongly recommend that you place a very capable pilot within this area of the ship. This is probably the most important area of a dropship. If you have a bad pilot who's going to come in too hot and smash the deck really hard, that's going to ruin your operation. You'd want someone that's very familiar with the exterior open and close button as well. You do not want this ship on the ground too long. In and out is sort of how I would use this, coming in guns blazing. Ideally, if I was to plan an operation with this as a dropship in my fleet, I would want everyone and the vehicles out within 30 seconds of that ramp being open. If you're not out, you're staying in the ship, and you really do need a capable pilot to make this ship as effective as it can be. So there are some other versatility areas and aspects of the ship I think will be useful in the future. I would like to see maybe a skeleton crew could easily run this ship, and you could have maybe an elite fire team of 4 troops on board. You could store multiple Noxes in the back, and then this becomes quite an effective reconnaissance vehicle. You could drop off those elite troops, they go scout the area you're planning to attack, then this ship would take off and just orbit until called back in to pick up the troops. I think that's an aspect that would be really cool. Hopefully we get gameplay like that in the future. I have no doubt that we will. Again, a lot pivots towards the future and what we're going to be able to do in the game, because I think there's a lot of untapped things that we can do with this ship. Now, it does look really cool. We've got some small winglets you can see that are going to help in atmosphere, but most important thing about this ship are the VTOL engines. They are pretty powerful. So you would land, deploy them, but the takeoff power of this ship is pretty impressive. It does not hang around, and that is a key characteristic that you would want in your dropship, the ability to leave the ground as efficiently and quickly as possible. They are very powerful. This ship does not hang around in the vertical takeoff, which is really, really cool. It took me by surprise, but it's definitely a function that you would want in a military dropship. Obviously, it is just as important to have strong vertical engines for coming in for landing. Again, this comes back to being, let's have a skilled pilot at the front, please, because you're more than likely going to want to deploy your troops very close to the area you're trying to attack, especially if you're trying to take them by surprise, because speed is everything, and having those engines that slow the Valkyrie down quickly enough to deploy those troops is also another key characteristic to being an effective dropship. So there's a lot going for it with the VTOL engines that just make this vessel even more awesome than it already is. Now, there are still plenty of uses for this ship in and around the verse before 3.18, and including 3.18, you could still do minor cargo running. You can take your friends and raid bunkers with it. It's still applicable in Jump Town for practice raids, possibly, if you're in an organisation big enough. In 3.18, which I've been avoiding any and all content on that because I want it delivered to me on a silver platter all the bugs gone so I can thoroughly enjoy the experience. But you know, things like looking for broken cargo ships, caterpillars, C2s, and scooping up all of that cargo in the back of the Valkyrie. So there's still multiple uses. You could take this rock mine in. A rock miner would easily fit in there. You could probably fit two for you and your friends. So there's still multiple game loops available to the Anvil Valkyrie as it stands at the moment. So what happens if you don't have troops on board, but you do have a fully crewed Valkyrie? Well, then this ship becomes quite obviously a gunship. Now you can see it is quite literally dripping in turrets. So you might not necessarily need to have troops on board to be effective if you're attacking a particular area in the verse. You could have a few of these empty, orbiting the area you're attacking and putting down quite a substantial amount of firepower. As you can see, we have the multiple winglets here, which obviously need to be aerodynamic to help your dropship in and out if that is the role it's assigned to. But you can see there's weapons attached to those winglets. Those are operated by remote turrets inside. We've got a top turret here, giving you a nice 360. Obviously the gun depression for this top turret is atrocious, and it doesn't need to worry about that because there are other weapon systems on board the Valkyrie that will cover the firing arcs that you might find yourself vulnerable. So these are remotely operated as well. No crew members are exposed to any incoming fire. They are protected by the shields of the ship. The only people that would get exposed to some respect are the door gunners. We have the chin turret there for the pilot, and then just below that and behind it we have yet another belly turret, which will have some obscured views on the ground, but as long as your crew are communicating well, then there are other doors and guns, as you can see here, that will put down enough firing cover to prevent those inadequacies from the upper and lower turret with their depression and obstacles being in the way. You should have more than enough fire support for your troops with all the various stations and weapon systems found on board the Valkyrie. So that is also a very useful aspect to this ship. Okay, now it's time to take a look at the interior of the Valkyrie, and I have only one gripe with this ship. The power is on, and as you can see, the lighting isn't all that brilliant in my opinion. I would like it to be much, much brighter than how it is now. There's going to be a lot of troops and equipment knocking around this ship, and I think it's a health and safety hazard, and the world has gone health and safety mad, so I can't see that being any different in the future. The last thing you want in your luxurious cargo area here and vehicle deployment zone is crap floating everywhere and you can't see what you're doing. It's very dark and dingy in the interior of this ship, but very nicely spacious, and it is a very nice dropship. You know, it's the apex dropship in the game, in my humble opinion. This is why I kind of want it to have some competition. Moving on from the cargo vehicle ramp area, you'll see the drop seats, and there are 5 seats situated opposite each other. There are 2 rooms which are identical. What's important though is the extra weapon racks by each seat, so everybody gets to take maybe holding a weapon and have one stowed, or maybe you find some weapons on the battlefield and take it from pry it from the corpses that you've left strewn across various planets and decide to take it back with you. That's a very nice feature. Just a little bit too dim internally for the ship for me, I feel. But other than that, it's very clean. You do get that military persona shining through. Here we have the turret room. Fairly standard stuff. But again, a lot of detail's gone into it. Simple things like cables just out and about, you know, laying around across that nice steel meshed floor. Nuts and bolts, you can see text everywhere. It's really, really nicely detailed in here. And again, I think they just need to up the light in here and it becomes just a whole new ship. In fact, I think it's such a well-built ship. I really don't see it being that difficult to bring it to gold standard. Now we do have various areas to the ship. We have bunk beds for the crew, a kitchenette, a toilet area, turret access opposite these sort of wooden bars, and a little hatch there. We have a warning beacon, which I couldn't get to operate. Let me know if you can get that to operate, because I've never seen it in action, and I think that would add to the ambience. I think there's a single bunk there, which I think is more than likely going to be for the captain, who more than likely is going to be the pilot. Like I said, you do want someone experienced to fly this ship. There's a lot of lives at risk you're not going to put it in the hands of a rookie. So fairly basic in terms of crew living capability, but it is nice that you've got the option to log out from the various beds that you can find in the sort of mini living quarters here for the crew. Moving towards the front of the ship, we have two stations here, which are the remote turrets for the winglets. The wings on the outside, those single weapon systems will be operated from these seats. An MFD will pop down and you can murder what you need to murder, which is very handy. And then you go down some stairs, which takes you through to the neck of the ship. And finally you will arrive at the cockpit, but before you do, I've almost forgot to show you the shoiler area. So this is the shoiler area that we will, when we come to do our tour of the vessel, take a look so you can get a retrospect of where it is on the ship. I nearly forgot, I apologise, but this is more than enough for the crew. Your troops aren't going to be using this unless they're shitting themselves because they don't want to die, which is fair enough. But yeah, fairly basic. Actually quite spacious for as shoilets go. It's pretty spacious, so there could be worse. In fact, there are worse, but not too bad at all. And then, of course, we move on to the bridge cockpit area, where it is obviously very nicely done. That olive drab green, the detailing, Valkyrie stenciling running down the side. Very nicely done. Lovely MFDs, various switches. Really does give that dropship vibe. Very important area of the ship, and it looks absolutely superb. So let's now take a look at weapons and components. Okay, so let's browse and peruse with the components that you will find on board the Anvil Valkyrie if you choose to purchase one. So, nose turret is 2 badgers, so they're size 2. Remote turret left is a panther. Remote turret right is also a panther. Then we have the top turret, which is 2 panthers. The bottom turret, which is 2 panthers. The door guns are the yellow jackets, ballistic weapons. So these are awesome for dropping down infantry, aliens, other spacecraft. Whatever gets in your way, the door gunner is going to have a field day. Shields, we get 2, they're size 2 and they're full stops. The power plants are maelstroms, they're also size 2. And then we have 2 coolers, which are the Arctics. Now, I haven't tinkered enough with this ship to bring it up to what I would call a fully capable operational Valkyrie in terms of its components. I haven't had time to play around with these. So if you have a particular build that you think suits this ship, then please by all means share it so others can maximise the potential of this great dropship. We have an Odyssey quantum drive, and that is also a size 2 on board the Valkyrie. So not the best of components, but not terrible either. I think it's a fairly average loadout and would require some tinkering. Okay guys, what we will do now, of course, is bring this video to a conclusion, and to do that we will start with a tour. Now, as I said in all of my previous videos, I do like to do these tours because it gives you a sense of scale. First things first, I absolutely love the bulkiness of this ship. It really does feel at home on the ground of a planet and looks the business. As you can see, we have the prominent VTOL engines which have excellent takeoff and landing capability. We have the wings with the remote turrets located on the wing tips. We have the doors for the door gunners there, which would open up and put down a hell of a lot of suppressing fire, murdering everything that moves. I've opened the ramp just for ease of touring, really. Then we have the tail planes at the back with some vertical stabilizers, which are obviously very important for atmospheric flight. As we move around the rear of the vessel, you'll see this all-important ramp. Keynote on the ramp is it opens very quickly and very efficiently, which is exactly something a dropship would need. Then we move around the other side. Of course it's symmetrical, but we'll do it anyway. We have the other 2 VTOL engines, the other remote turret, 4 landing gear. It's fairly wide, this ship, and it does weigh roughly 621,000 kilograms, so 4 strong landing gear are almost certainly required, especially with troops, equipment and vehicles on board. As we move around to the front of the glorious Valkyrie, it is very beefy when you're on the ground looking at it from a walk around perspective. And then of course we have the chin turret and that lower turret that can still put down adequate fire to the front. So could the pilot if he so choose to. The pilot should really be concentrating on getting the hell out. And then you can see there's a floor window there, which is also very important because you need to see how close you are to the ground and are you coming in too hot, etc. So that's a nice feature of the ship. Okay, so let's make our way back towards the rear under all the various engines that we have on board, and we'll make our way up the ramp and into the rear of the ship. Oh, we have to do a little space jump. We haven't parked particularly well. A little bit rough, but so the ramp itself, very quick, very effective, as you can see here. Needs to be in and out. That's the whole point. Get in, deploy, get out, destroy. I've just made a motto for this ship. I think that's genius. You're a genius, Pin. Anyway, moving on. This is the cargo grid area. You can see on the floor here, and the vehicle storage. There's plenty of room in here for equipment, vehicles, whatever you're taking for what particular operation you intend to use the Valkyrie. There is ample room in here for several vehicles and troops and equipment and ammo and medical supplies. Whatever you need, this ship should be more than enough. There are very cool various switches and things around here, which I hope are going to get some use in the future, because I really want to press those switches. They really do look cool. We'll go over to one of the doors here, and we have some, I'm not sure what these are. I think they're secure lockers, maybe? Secure catch. I think they're secure lockers for stowage, which is nice. So we'll open this door, like so. We'll deploy the heavy machine gun. Power it on. I said power it on. There we go. And yeah, so pretty decent firing arc. Don't forget, you could still have crew manning that remote turret, but this is almost certainly going to put down a lot of suppressing fire. You have to be quite choosy with your shots. Already, look, we've chewed through about half of our ammo belt. Now in the future, CRG did say that maybe there'll be an option where we can store ammo boxes in our ship and we could physically leave and replenish that. So that's not just for the minigun on this ship. That could also apply to ballistic weapons that you've applied to your various spacecraft. So you might be able to grab an ammo box, leave the cockpit, go refill your guns. So ideally, I would store ammo in those security bins there that we just saw. Moving through, we have the drop seats, and they do have harnesses and the weapon stowage kits there, as previously mentioned. Nothing fancy in here. It serves a purpose and it serves it well. That takes us through to the turret room, where we have the turret, which we'll jump in now. And let's see if the animation is nice. It is. And here is the belly turret. So this is located just under the chin turret. 3 MFDs with the various switches to operate. Power on, radar in the middle. So as you can see, it's a little bit obstructed on the ground. But if you were to park the ship in a way that was facing the enemy, you could probably utilize this turret and have the door gunners as flank protection. I think that's more ideal because the Panthers are going to regenerate ammunition, whereas the Yellow Jacket side doors are going to quickly deplete their ammo. So it probably makes sense to point the ship towards the area you're attacking. Also, that gives the troops deploying out the back and the vehicles some cover from the shield, so your troops will be able to deploy a little bit safer. So that's probably the way I would do it. Again, we'll see how all this plays out in the future. So we'll do a circle, and look at these switches. I really want to press these switches. I hope they all do things in the future. So we'll do a circle, and this will bring us back out towards the rear of the ship and the cargo area, like so. Now there is a ladder that we need to take to get to the second deck, which is sort of the living area of the ship. So we're up. You'll notice I've got my torch on as well, because I just think it is too dim in here. So we have the 2 bunks here, a radar component, storage area, engineering access. I think if they put the components in the back, or the majority of them, changing and swapping them out is not going to be an issue. There's so much ample room in this ship. It's actually quite deceiving until you get in one, just how roomy it is. Then we have the captain's bed, 2 more bunks for the crew. The upper turret is just there. Plenty of room in here for the crew. It's not supposed to be luxurious or comfortable, but it is functional. And that can be all the difference for the sake of morale. So let's now jump in the top turret like so. So we do get a fairly different turret compared to the belly turret below. You get a few more MFDs. You get a nice 360. Fairly decent gun depression towards the rear of the ship. Not brilliant. The 2 engines in VTOL mode could be an issue. In flight, obviously, that's not going to be a problem. You're not going to be flying in VTOL for that long, I would have thought. But yeah, not too bad. Again, with the 2 Panthers, nothing unusual. The restrictions with the struts aren't too bad as well, now that I'm looking at it. You know, it's really not too intrusive. So that's the top turret. And then we have a kitchenette just there. Captain's bed here. And then this is the toilet that I nearly missed earlier. So as you can see, that's directly opposite the captain's quarters. Bed, sorry. But fairly spacious as toilets go. But nicely detailed. And again, that's steam or oxygen coming out the vent there. That's really cool. And then we have the waist gunners, so to speak. The remote turrets for the wings. So we will hop in this really quickly to give you an idea of firing arcs for the weapons located on the wings. So power on, enter remote turret. It's fairly respectable. You can cover nearly the rear of the ship. That is a respectable. Don't forget with the door gunners as well, the flanks of the ship are going to be very well protected, especially if you point the ship towards the enemy. The flanks will be secure. You've got the 2 turrets at the front, one operated by the pilot and of course the belly turret, facing the enemy, shredding them to bits. And if anyone tries to flank you and maybe use a railgun against you, then you've got the protection of the door gunners and that wing machine gun, wing repeater there. We have this really cool handprint, which is going to unlock and lock the cockpit door, so no one unauthorized can steal the ship or pilot it, which they have said they are going to implement. And obviously there's another one here to get out. I really like that. That's really cool. So we'll enter the cockpit. And this is a great place to sit. MFDs wrap around the pilot. You've got everything at your disposal. Switches are easy to reach. There's not too much turning in order to operate any of these MFDs. It's good stuff in here. It really does have a military feel to it. You can see the vision port by your feet there. You're coming in hot. You can get a sort of sense of judgment, sense of distance. You don't want to come in too hot and shatter the ship on impact and kill everyone on board. Visibility wise, it's only these 2 struts. It's really not that intrusive. Very similar to the turret design. I like it in here. You do kind of get this weird atmosphere feeling from sitting in here that you are responsible for quite a lot of things, and people on board of course, but everything's easy to reach. Engine on, engine off. Open exterior, that's a very important button that you need to be familiar with, because you can land, hit that button, troops get out again. 30 seconds would be my cutoff. If you can do it faster than that, that's even better, but 30 seconds would be ideal. So overall, internally, it's a fantastic ship. So there we go, guys. That was my video on the amazing Anvil Valkyrie. I thoroughly enjoy this ship. I enjoy how it looks. Hopefully we get some competition for it in the future in terms of a dropship, that forward-stroke gunship that could deploy vehicles. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy today's video, you know what buttons to press, and I of course will have more Star Citizen content en route to your location very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Cheers.